Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. AI is everywhere. Pitch decks, board meetings, product roadmaps, but most executives still don't know where to start. Today's guest isn't here to sell buzzwords. She's here to give you a playbook. She's a Rice University professor, the founder of Demystify AI, and the author of AI Made Simple, Results Made Real. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Kathleen Perley. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So much to dig in today. Let's start with, you work with a lot of leaders across various industries. What's sort of the biggest myth that you see out there about AI that you're constantly having to correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think about 18 months ago, it was oftentimes like this idea that like AI isn't smart enough to handle our business work. It's really not for us. I think that has gotten a lot better. When you see the latest, even in January, the models were outperforming PhDs in their own field with access to the internet. And I will tell you, a lot of my peers at the university were very anxious about that stat. And so it was more on the intelligence side. But I think now it's almost this idea that they think it's like a light switch. So it's like if I implement AI, I pick a tool, flip the light switch, everything will be better. From our processes, our revenue, things like that. But it's just not that simple. And I think they have to really start to think about, a couple of things. It's not just a tool. It's not just figuring out how to turn it on and off, but to genuinely get the value you need from it, you need to think about, okay, do you have good, clean data? Do you have a data repository at all? Do you have the people and process alignment?
Do you have data at all? So your book, it's called AI Made Simple. Why a book? Why now? I mean, you teach at university. I do not know where you get the time, but was it so? Did you feel like, hey, executives need this now? I need to put this out there now, or what was it for you?
So it was, my first class I taught at Rice, I had about 100 students. And they were very anxious about graduating from my class. And they were like, how are we going to stay up to date? How do we translate this into our executive leadership? And I started to notice that there were a lot of people out there talking about artificial intelligence and almost overcomplicating it. And kind of it became more about smoke and mirrors than it really came about the technology and how it could be used. I am kind of a nerd, I will admit that, but I do think that like when you think about who's going to change the world with this technology, it's not going to be the nerds like me. It's going to be people who understand enough of AI and their aspect of their life, right? Or their industry that they work in that are truly going to change how we think about it. And I don't want intimidation of language or lack of coding experience or anything like that prohibit us from getting to that next level.
Cool. So what is the book about? Like, take me through it. Obviously go out and buy the book, but like if someone came up to you in a coffee shop and say, hey, Kathleen, what's your book about? How would you describe it?
I think it's a real like practical understanding that kind of goes through some AI literacy so you aren't intimidated by the language of it all, to real life examples and practical frameworks that you can implement and think about. I think it's really focused on those leaders who want to be implementers. Like they don't want to spend, it's not about spending an entire book in a conversation of theory. It's about here are the real practical ways that you can apply it and ways to really start to think and understand it. I grew up with dyslexia and ADHD, so like academia is not necessarily my strength, although I somehow ended up in it, which is odd.
How? Sorry because that's very interesting. How did you overcome that obstacle, and how did you end up not even in not going to university and excelling, but becoming a professor?
I mean, I will tell you, I think, I have ADHD and dyslexia. So, in high school and growing up, I was told I was told not to go to college, that I would never be successful in college. I was told never to study a second language. Part of my ADHD made me insanely curious about a lot of things, as well as incredibly stubborn. And that stubbornness pushed me to study linguistics. I mean, I remember telling my parents, I come from a long line of oil and gas folks, and I was like, I'm going to study linguistics. And like the look on my parents' face of like sheer, like, what are you A, doing because of your background? And B, like, what are you going to do with a linguistics degree? Like, how does this make any sense? And so, you
Like
know,
telling your doctor parents, I'm going to go and study art. I'm going to be art major. Like,
yeah,
what are we
absolutely.
doing?
Well, and the funny thing is now they're like, oh, this is
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Now she's like, oh, she's like on top of everything. Like she's making the world move.
Yeah. And so, like, having that background, right, I was
Mm,
constantly teaching myself, like, bringing analogies into my understanding, like, trying to rethink how I break down complex topics to rebuild them in a way that I understood. And so I kind of
mm,
applied that in the book. So, like, for example, how AI models work, I use an analogy of how I make margaritas to talk about the importance of data collections, like getting the right ingredients for a margarita. And if you
mm.
have bad tequila, you're going to have no matter how you mix it,
Bad
you're going to have
time.
a bad time. And so, I think
Love that.
that really helped. And it's funny, when I started teaching at Rice, one of the things that they told me and why they wanted me to join was they mentioned, they were like, well, you're a non-linear thinker.
Mm.
And we would really love that at our university. And I was so blown away by that because that's just how I've always thought. Like nothing is linear, right? Everything is like kind of random connected dots that somehow make sense in my brain, but doesn't make sense in everyone else's. And so I've kind of leaned into that as a superpower to help people navigate this world.
I'm going to share a little bit of story with you quickly. My son is 6. He's a bit neurodivergent. A little bit, not a lot, but just enough so he's different. And I've sat him down with AI last couple of months and taught him how to prompt because he's just starting to read and stuff. And it's fascinating how his brain is making dots that my brain isn't making. And I think early signs for me is that AI is giving people a neurotypical divergent people that it's going to make them fundamentally important in this world going forward and empower them to do things that normal people can't.
I agree 100%. And that's kind of why I love the teaching aspect of it as well,
Mm,
because in growing up and until recently, I've done linguistics, I did, machine learning algorithms, things of that nature. But I always felt like ideas were trapped in my brain. Like I would try to explain to
yes,
somebody what was going on, and they would be like,
yes,
I don't understand how you get from here to here, point A to Z. Like, I don't know how
yes,
you make these connections.
yeah,
And so now I oftentimes will do voice memos and upload it to AI and say, like, help me rewrite this in a way that works for the linear thinkers,
yes.
because I know I don't think in that manner, and that can be really confusing for other people. And it's not that one way or the
Yes.
wrong way, but it just finally feels like I can communicate and it's not trapped. And that's what my hope is that if the more people that we can get engaged in this technology and using it as a way to kind of remove the barriers, whatever it may be, I really think we'll see some amazing things come to life with this tech. I had a student whose nephew was on the spectrum.
Mm.
And in my class, they have to learn how to build an AI wrapper. And she built one because he was 15
So
and
for
wanting to.
those that don't know, what is an AI wrapper?
So it's not like you're building a model from the ground up, but you're kind
Okay.
of building a portion of it. So you're taking, for example, in this case, they took Soul Machines, which is like an AI avatar tool,
Okay. Okay.
and they uploaded a certain knowledge base so that there's like
Okay.
kind of this additional kind of reference point or learning mechanism in place.
Okay.
And so she created an avatar that he could use to practice dating because he wanted to go on dates, but he didn't know how to build
Oh.
small talk, and he was really insecure about it and eye contact. And so the avatar allowed him to have a place to communicate where he didn't feel judged or uncomfortable so that he eventually can go on dates. So, you think about those types of stories and it just like warms my heart in terms of what it could do.
Do you know if that translated to the real life?
I know she built it. I saw the live demo and her nephew started using it.
What? That's
Yeah.
crazy. So we're already like building stuff for people to use out there. Like,
Oh,
and it's not like big tech companies, but it's community, right? It's people.
yeah. I mean, and I think what's great about it is this woman in my class who built it, she has no coding background, no technical
Okay.
background whatsoever. And that's, whether your barrier is, not being able to code or a learning disability, you're seeing it come to life. Another example that I love is I had a student who he was an engineer that worked within, let's call like space travel.
Okay.
And one of the issues that he identified, because one of the things I asked them is like, what's one thing that keeps you up at night at work? And they had to identify, this is my strategy class, a pilot. And he said, in the International Space Station, if something goes wrong, like the infrastructure or some of the technology up there, it's pretty outdated. A lot of people who built that foundational technology are retired or no longer with us. And if something goes wrong, they have to call down to Houston. They have to
We
look
have a
and try to
problem.
find the manual and then kind of send that information back. And so
Yeah.
he started building a model where he just took the existing manuals and created a chatbot on top of it so that people in space could utilize that as the first interaction. And so he presented in our class kind of this thought process and then went and presented it to his boss at work and got approval. He got a grant, funding to go ahead with the project. And the thing that's so cool about it is he mentioned his boss said, when we think about going to Mars, one of the biggest constraints is communication delay. And so if we can solve this here at ISS, this might be something we take to Mars that allows us to feel more safe about some life-saving equipment that we're using there.
That's actually very interesting that incorporating AI in your tool set, in your skill set, can make you advance in your career. It's sort of like, remember when Office Word and Office came out and people were proficient in Excel. And I mean, a lot of stuff still runs on Excel, but I mean, I really think people should spend time with AI models and tools and incorporate them and because like you said it can help you, but I want to talk a bit about companies themselves and less so about the individuals. Do you think that companies that are integrating AI into their workflows or strategies or whatever, do you think they will outpace their competitors?
It's interesting. It's one of the first times I've seen in a long time where being a smaller company is actually more advantageous than being a larger company. A lot of the companies I work with and talk to, they've developed the AI task force, if you will. They've gotten the subscription of the software. They've done 2 or 3 universal trainings for their staff, but they're not nimble enough to really kind of push forward. I think oftentimes, especially for larger companies, you have this mentality of if it isn't broken,
Yeah,
don't touch.
don't fix it. Yeah.
And so there's just this lack of kind of cultural lack of experimentation and leaning into new technology and really thinking about not just how you can utilize it in one of the processes or for one of your outputs as a company, but really thinking about how does it shift your business model? Where does it make sense to automate through AI? Where does it make sense to maintain that human connection? And how do you do more with more, right? So many companies I see, they have this mentality like if we integrate AI, we can cut our staff, we can cut our costs.
Oh my
Things
soul, like Klarna, yeah, and now it basically backfired on them supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, it backfired on them for sure. I'm sure their shareholders might not be too disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But how do you think about, okay, well, if we integrate AI and we are able to reduce some of the time our team takes to do certain tasks, what are some of the things that we never were able to do, whether it was due to time or tech or, just bandwidth? And do we start doing that? Do we spend more time in understanding our customers and some of their challenges to better provide a better quality solution? And I think those companies who aren't seeing AI as just as efficiency, but really see it as an opportunity to do more with more are the
Yeah.
ones who are going to be successful 10 years out.
Wow, that's a long time frame. Where would you start? Because it can be overwhelming. Yeah, if let's say a small company or medium-sized company get you in and say, Kathleen, we hear AI is something, and I mean, you know how these some of these old executive types can be. They I'm gonna get so roasted for this, but sometimes like they hear something, or their son or daughter says something about, dad, are you using AI or whatever, and he's like, we have to do this AI thing now. But they're a bit scared, they don't know where to start, they don't know what to do. What's like a gentle easing in point?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is executives can't be on the sidelines of they have to experiment too. And I will tell you, I work with Marie Myers at HPE, so Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we have coffee on a regular basis, and she's like, show me how to do this, teach me something new that you loved, and then she experiments and does it herself. And so I think one is like, you can't sit on the sidelines. I think the second part is start to have a conversation, like remove any barriers within your organization and ask in a way that isn't threatening, are you using AI? How are you using it? Because oftentimes I go in and they say, like, we have nothing to worry about. We don't allow AI at our organization. And I'm like, great, you've created a bring your own AI policy to work. So have the conversation because you might be amazed at some ways that people are thinking about it. And then the last piece, one of the first things I always do is, as a former CEO and as a current CEO, I mean, those employee handbooks, I've written parts of them multiple times. I even have never read one from start to finish. And so one of the things I think is such an easy win that can be done quickly, has low risk from that, in terms of data security, and can be beneficial to all of your employees is create a knowledge base or an agent that interacts with your employee handbook. So they're not bogging down your HR team to say, what's our maternity leave policy? How do I request PTO? What other benefits are offered for employees for travel or things of that nature? I mean, these are simple things that A, as an employee, oftentimes they might feel uncomfortable asking. And B, if you hear it and you have an employee who's exceptional, who read all cover to cover your full employee handbook,
Yeah.
they're not going to remember in 6 months all the details. And so if you're able to take some of that weight off of your HR team to focus more on how do you engage your employees, how do you help them build their career, it's a win-win all around. And it shows progress in something that your legal team will be happy with because it's nothing really
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
concerning cybersecurity, right? It's something that everyone can get on board with. And most companies I work with, it takes about 2 weeks to implement max.
Awesome. Kathleen, before I let you go, I know you've got a very hectic and busy lifestyle. What are some of your favorite AI tools at the moment? I mean, this episode should go out next week. So by next week, there hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing major drops. But what are some of your favorite AI tools at the moment that you use daily and why?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, Google had a lot of really impressive releases last week that are
Oh
just
my
phenomenal.
soul, VO3. It's amazing.
It's fabulous. And I think
Yeah.
like start experimenting, right? Like I use ChatGPT a ton. And as much as I want to be a rebel and like have another cooler tool that I use more often, it's just really good.
Yeah.
And so I use it a lot. The other thing I would say that oftentimes people don't know is Replit. So I'm not for sure if you're familiar with Replit.
No.
It's an AI coding agent, if you will.
Okay.
Uh, and so sometimes, and this is going to sound really nerdy, I have my operator agent, which is kind of the OpenAI one, work with my Replit agent.
Yeah.
And I will say, go to my Replit account, I'll log in, and I'll be like, code me an interface to help students upload their favorite prompts for learning, where people can add comments, things like that. And I'll just explain it. But my operator agent will work hand in hand with my Replit agent and code it. And then if there's an issue, it'll connect APIs for me, all of that. And if there's an issue, my operator agent will go to Reddit, figure out how to solve it, and then go back to the Replit agent to fix the code issue and advise it. And this all happens while I'm commuting to work, right? Like I start this process before I leave the house, drop the kids off at school, go to Rice. And by the time I get in, I have a fully functional user interface that I can play around with. And just by simple language, I can say, hey, I want this functionality. It will automatically recode. And it connects to GitHub. You can do deployments in it, things of that nature. So there's really, like, being able to show some of my students that, and some of the companies, like, there's no reason why R&D takes a long time. And if you're able to get to an MVP faster, so you can have more tangible
and cheaper.
Yeah. Well, and just, I think oftentimes, right, like a picture's worth 1,000 words. Like even my development team, I'll build stuff in Replit now and send it to them and say, hey, this is the functionality that I kind of been thinking about for our tool that we're going to build. And they'll be able to see the code, and there's some technical debt and it's not perfect.
No.
But it's a lot better than my chicken scratch drawings I used to give them with, like when you click here, this is what I want to have happen, right? And so that's exciting, right? To be able to see people who don't have a coding background build web apps.
I was about to ask if you have any coding experience.
So the answer is this. I can hack my way through some things.
Okay.
That being said, when I was running my former company, if my development team was behind schedule, the fastest way to get them back on track was to offer to jump into the code base and be like, I can help. And I used to, I'd be like, don't worry about it. I'll help, guys. And they're like, no, you're good, right? So like, I can read code. I can, do a little Python, but like, you would not want me coding your website or web app or any software systems. Like, it's not my area of expertise.
The last thought from my side, that's why I'm so bullish on Agentic AI. It's just because it makes so much sense. It's logical. It's just increasing productivity while you are sleeping, while you are taking the kids to school, while you are going to work. And you can build the guardrails, right? You can set the parameters. You can be in charge of it. But I think it's an amazing time that we're going in, and we're just scraping the surface.
100% agree. It's fascinating. It's actually what we're working on right now is a investor relations AI agent to help companies. And it's true. And I think, the other part of it is so much of, if you ask any person in a company, especially on the senior level side, 50 to 60% of their time is not spent doing strategy. It's doing mundane things that an agent can handle so they can actually focus on the real strategic challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for a company.
Absolutely. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today. Fascinating conversation. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and find out more about Demystify AI, where can they find you?
I would say look at me up on LinkedIn. My email address is kp@demystify.com. Either one. I will say I am a little ADHD, so if you don't hear poke maybe more than once, and I will definitely follow up. But yeah, I always love hearing from others and their experiences. And I want to have as many people in this conversation as we possibly can.
Yeah, the SGM community will show up. The book is called AI Made Simple, Results Made Real. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Heels, hair, drifted time, baby, beware. Style sick, in demand. Eyes on me, clock this word. Face beat, feeling neat, skin smooth, silk sheet. Hey, you wanna meet? Come play sweet trees. Strut steps on sleigh, nails sharp, don't play. Hair slick, girl, hey, look fierce all day. Pose snap, sachet, sugar lips, yes, babe. Brows sleek, I say, get out my way. Horse pose, big bucks, queen mode, no fucks. Game on, good luck, everyone starstruck. Look fierce all day, pose snap, sachet, sugar lips, yes, babe. Brows fleek, I say. queen mode, no fucks. Game on, good luck, everyone starstruck. Strut, step, stomp, slay, nail sharp, don't play. Hair slick, girl, hey, look fierce all day. Get out my way. Get out my way.